because he was in double digits ahead of Ron Johnson in that first race. He lost the race by 100,000 votes, lost it again 6 years later when he again was several points ahead. So Tammy Baldwin is really the one who's disconnected from Wisconsin. And you see it in her opposition to securing the border. You see it in her support for the Council on American Islamic Relations, where she took some of the most radical positions in Congress on the situation in the Middle East right now. Tammy Baldwin's out of touch with Wisconsin. If they're talking about Eric Hovde, it's because they have their own problems.
Historically, Baldwin has been popular with voters. She has a pretty big war chest. Hovde, at the same time, can self-finance his campaign, so he will be a financial threat as well. So how do, Republicans work against that? Is it mainly that issues-based, separating the two?
Yeah, it'll be issues-based, separating the Republican primary winner and Tammy Baldwin. Look, I'm happy with the folks I got in my Republican primary. I think Eric Hovde is a value add to that primary and the profile of the race, which, by the way, is raising around the country, not just here in Wisconsin, but people around the country are paying attention to this race with the possibility of the Republicans taking the U.S. Senate back.
Briefly, let's talk about the new legislative maps that will be in place for November. Democrats gaining a lot of ground in this. Lots of Republican incumbent pairings in both chambers, as we're seeing. Now, some legislators starting to finalize their plans. Senator Dan Knodel telling WisPolitics, for instance, he won't run, but keeping his options open for another seat in either the Senate or Assembly. So my question to you, are we going to see more of that from Republicans over the next few years? This strategizing of ways to maximize wins, with Democrats gaining a little bit more of an edge?
Well, I was saying to someone the other day, look, I'm on my third set of legislative maps over the years. I've been around the Capitol on my seventh governor. And the Democrats, look, with Janet Protasewicz's victory in the Supreme Court, she prejudged the map. It doesn't take a political scientist to look and say, when you say a map is rigged and unconstitutional when you're a candidate, that you're going to rule the wrong way when you get on the court, when in fact she should have recused herself. So we're at the point that we are on the map. I think Republicans in the legislature probably looked at the Evers map and said, look, this is the least worst map. But the truth of the matter is, the same people who funded Janet Protasewicz's campaign are some of the same folks funding the challenges to the maps, and they're sitting in front of the candidate of the justice that they funded and put into office. So I think that's where Republicans went better with the maps they know and taking a chance again on the court, which has swung liberal with out-of-state money.
Regardless, though, Republicans are up against a different kind of challenge from what we've seen over the last decade or so. So how do you adjust to that?
Well, what's interesting, there'll be some folks moving around. I suspect, to your point, there'll be some people retiring. But the plain fact of the matter is, on this thing, I think Republicans will stay in pretty firm control of the Senate. I think they'll be very competitive in the Assembly. I wonder what my friends on the other side of the aisle are going to say when they lose legislative races on the issues this November and can't blame the maps anymore.
Brian Schimming, chair of the Republican Party of Wisconsin, thanks for being on the show.
So good to see you.
See you soon. Thanks. In other news this morning, the Wisconsin Elections Commission alleges multiple Republican county parties, Donald Trump's joint fundraising committee, and Representative Janelle Brandtjen broke campaign finance laws. State law bars donations over $1,000 to assembly candidates, but parties can give unlimited amounts. In new documents we got this week from the Ethics Commission, it alleges the groups and individuals and others of illegally funneling donations directed to Republican Assembly candidate Adam Steen through the state parties in an effort to skirt the campaign finance limits. You'll recall Trump and other election deniers backed Steen when Speaker Robin Vos did not engage in efforts to overturn the state's 2020 election results. The commission recommends county district attorneys file charges. Well, this past week was a busy one in Wisconsin's political world. In addition to signing his voting maps into law, Governor Evers signed a bill that guarantees admission to UW schools to the state's top-performing high school students. The Assembly also wrapped its session, passing bills to expand the state's criteria for alerts involving missing children, establish a task force on missing and murdered African-American women and girls, and ban deer hunters from killing does in northern Wisconsin. But some bills introduced this session legislation won't make it all the way to becoming law. The proposal for a medical marijuana program is dead. So is a bill to allow early processing of absentee ballots, and a bill to fight PFAS pollution is likely to get vetoed, with the governor saying it undermines the authority of environmental regulators. Well, that is it for this busy edition of Capital City Sunday. As always, you can email me at smaslerdonar@wkow.com with any questions or interview suggestions for the show. But that's all for now. We'll see you back here next week, same time, same place.